So as you may or may not know, there was some new information that came out on Twitter. If you're part of the Dragon Ball sort of, I hesitate to say community, but that group on Twitter, right? And Erms was able to translate some things that were said, right? On what was it called again? What was the exact thing? Okay, so it's a full translation of the S cells and Super Saiyan God questions from the new Toriyama Q&A. Yeah, so Toriyama had like this new Q&A thing, right? So I was thinking about like the best way to start this video, and the first thing I'll say is take this with a grain of salt. Don't treat this, well, not with a grain of salt, but yeah, actually no, treat it like a grain of salt. Don't treat it like word of law, okay? I've said this for a number. I've brought up this this sort of issue topic in the past, right? Where usually, even if it's not Dragon Ball, you can, whatever series, manga, anime, comic book, film, whatever it is, right? You can go to the screenwriter, director, the author, creator, whatever it is, and you can ask them a question, they'll be able to answer it, right? And because they are the creator, that means their word is law. But as I've explained in the past, I'll explain it here again, that's not necessarily the case with Toriyama, right? So I obviously talked about like how Super isn't indicative of that because he's co-creating that and probably not doing, well, we know he's not doing a whole lot because he's not the one that's creating specific lines of dialogue or anything like that, or drawing it or even animating it, right? And because all he does is pretty much a plot outline and some character designs here and there, the differences between Super in the anime and Super in the manga, right? Those two versions of Super are vastly different, right? Even though the general story is the same, like, oh, this happens, this person loses, this person wins at the end, the general flow of events is generally different, right? Or no, not the general flow. What am I saying? Like details here and there, or how certain things happen, are completely different. Which is what I was saying with this current arc in the Tournament Power. It's going to be way different in the manga, right? But especially for Toriyama, just as an author who is very forgetful and whose Q&A seem to like contradict one another. That's one other thing. So like I was saying, like in 2001, the Shonen Jump Q&A that he did, where he was explaining, and this was also said in the Daizenshu, where he was bringing up like tailless children, right? And that's how Goten and Trunks were strong. But now this Q&A thankfully explains like why they're, or not explains, but it confirms like what I was saying earlier, like the Super Saiyan gene theory. Like yes, and it does in fact pass through the blood. It does in fact pass through cells and genes and and that sort of thing. And obviously I knew that, but the thing is, like, people were trying to justify the tailless thing because, that's what the Daizenshu said. And as you guys already know, or you may not know, I've already said that the Daizenshu doesn't mean anything because, one, it's not written by Toriyama and he had very little to do with it, as said by Kanzenshuu themselves. It has contradictory information in it, like Super Saiyan 2, whether Gohan used Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2 against Dabura, excuse me. And yeah, it was written by Shueisha. And the fourth point is that it's a data book, and not just for Dragon Ball. Data books and manga are they're a no-go. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, so basically I want to talk about this interview, which talks about like S cells and everything. And like I said, you take this, you don't take this as word of law because, like I was saying with the 2001 Q&A that I just mentioned, the information contradicts itself. And but I'm fine with that in this case because it really doesn't fight against the manga, right? So the fact that Super Saiyan in genes, right, Super Saiyan that passes through the blood, has been pretty much confirmed, right? It's been pretty much confirmed to this Q&A. But the thing is, the thing about Toriyama that I was saying is, like, one, he's forgetful, and two, if for anyone that knows Toriyama, he's most likely creating this like on a whim. Like, he's not putting like too much thought into it, and he's not really thinking. He's not going back to every single chapter in the manga to see like, oh, if this makes sense, right? If this makes complete sense. But that being said, this works somewhat well. So I'm actually I'm happy, or I'm happy about like the Super Saiyan gene stuff, but I'm not happy about the other stuff, right? So yeah. Anyway, let's actually talk about the actual interview itself, right? Rather than whether this is quote unquote canon. So the first question, so this is question 5, can anyone become a Super Saiyan if they train? It's not like anyone can become a Super Saiyan through training in anger. In order to become Super Saiyan, one's body must contain something called S cells. Once these S cells reach a certain amount, a trigger such as anger will explosively increase the S cells and cause a change in the body. That's Super Saiyan. Most Saiyans have some S cells, although not a great quantity. The reason why Goku and Vegeta's children can become Super Saiyan relatively easily is probably because to a certain extent they inherited a lot of S cells, and also because Earth's environment is gentler and easier to live in than planet Vegeta. So, like I said, the Super Saiyan so the fact that Super Saiyan can pass through the blood is pretty much, like I said, in the case of Goten and Trunks, like I was using that quote unquote as evidence because Vegeta was so shocked after 8 years that Trunks could transform into a Super Saiyan, right? Now that's the thing though. Trunks does probably never receive that much training from. In the case of Goten and Trunks, right, they probably didn't go through the hard training that Goku, even Gohan for that matter, and Vegeta did to reach that form. So that's what I was saying, and the fact that they were so surprised that they were Super Saiyan at such a young age, keynote young, right? Which also could mean like potential because they're like half-breed Saiyans, but the fact that they were so surprised that they were Super Saiyans at such a young age pretty much lends credence to the fact that yes, they did in fact inherit it through the blood, and the fact that they could transform at all, right? But the other thing that's kind of I guess contradictory to this is this whole thing about Earth's environment being gentler and easier to live in, and that's what purports S cells. Now the thing is, so here's the thing, right? Super Saiyan, it's like I said, it's like what I was saying in my earlier vids. You need training and anger, and obviously not anyone can become that, because if you could become that, then Super Saiyan in itself wouldn't be a legend, right? Super Saiyan, when Vegeta first mentioned it in the Namek arc, or actually no, was it mentioned in the Saiyan arc? I want to say it was, maybe, but but I think the Namek arc is like when like the true connotation of like what it was supposed to be like came about, like when Vegeta first realized it when Goku was fighting Raccoon. I think when they said like Super Saiyan, it was just like, oh, he's like a supered up version of a Saiyan rather than an actual Super Saiyan with like gold hair or whatever, right? Anyway, so it's like I said, like training and anger. But this S cell thing, right? I'm happy that yeah, the genetic thing is one thing, but it also kind of like cheapens the hard work, right? Because and don't get me wrong, it does say you do need to train to achieve Super Saiyan, right? But the fact is, if you're going to have the means to transform into a Super Saiyan from birth, right? Because S cells, it is genetic at the end point, or not at the end point, at the end of the day, right? If the means to transform into a Super Saiyan, right? If you have like this untapped, unknown, quote unquote power source, I can't really think of a better word to describe it, right? That helps you become Super Saiyan, right? Then you didn't really, I mean, yes, you did achieve it through hard work, but it wasn't solely through hard work. Like a part of like your genes and quote unquote your fate played a part in that, right? Because you were just born with the ability to maybe someday transform into a Super Saiyan, and that is completely that completely diminishes the whole thing about like why Goku or Vegeta for that matter were able to transform in the first place. The reason it was so great that they transformed into Super Saiyans, yeah, Goku was the first good Saiyan, and you know, the fact that he was good and he was, you know, slowly losing himself to his anger at Frieza for killing Krillin, but still holding on to like a bit of humanity. Vegeta being so self-loathing, like all these things, coupled with how hard they fucking worked, right? It wasn't anything like, oh, there was some biological thing in their body. It was just pure training and anger. And so for S cells to be a part of that somewhat diminishes it, but I also understand it. I also understand it because S cells, that's another way to separate Saiyans from every other alien race there is out there. Even humans. Like the only difference between Saiyans and humans was one, obviously Saiyans were stronger in general, but they also had the tail. So now to have like a different kind of cell is another sort of like biological difference between besides the tail, right? But the other thing I don't like is this whole they can become relatively easy because the environment is gentler and easier, right? This to me is just like straight up like horseshit, right? Because with Gohan, and this doesn't have to necessarily deal with like transforming into Super Saiyan, but it doesn't make sense to me that S cells, quote unquote Saiyan cells, like when the Saiyan, and I assume like S cells like stands for Saiyan, right? Or super cells or whatever, right? For those cells to be killed because you're in a constantly competitive, violent, and vicious what's the word society like what the Saiyans had like on planet Vegeta, to have that I feel is just to say like when you get out of that your ability to grow into a transformation is heightened, I think it's complete bullshit, because again it comes down to training in anger, right? We're going to talk about Raditz later, but Raditz, it was much stronger than Goku because he was literally with Frieza's forces and on planet Vegeta, right? Even though Goku was on Earth and had fought King Piccolo and the Ribbon Army and all these different people, he was still nothing to Raditz, right? Because Raditz was able to become so strong, and because he was in a violent, environment. Same thing with Vegeta. Even after, well, actually, Goku didn't even beat Raditz, but even with Vegeta and Nappa, for that matter, they were so much more stronger than Gohan, right? Gohan, and that's another thing, Gohan. I mean, yeah, you can chalk it up to the fact that he's a half-breed, but he got strong because Piccolo put him, or, well, he got stronger, I should say, because Piccolo put him in a violent, harsh environment for 6 months. And that obviously helped him transform into a Super Saiyan much later, right? So it's kind of like this. If being in a gentler and easier environment is supposed to raise the amount of S cells that you have, and then you have to train, right? It's kind of like, okay, so all Gohan has to do, right? Or Goten or Trunks, or even Goku and Vegeta for that matter, is not train for like X amount of years, right? Let's say they don't train for like 5 years, right? And then they train just hard enough, right? And not extremely hard, because like I was saying, like what I was saying with Planet Vegeta, with it having like 10 times Earth's, 10 times the gravity of Earth's, or what he was doing on Kaio's planet, right? That was also 10 times Earth's gravity. All that stuff, all these harsh environments made him stronger. And now the ability to achieve Super Saiyan is diminished because you're pushing yourself in harsher, more rigorous conditions. That's really retarded to me. That's like, what's the point of Vegeta like training in fucking like this gravity chamber, like in 150 times, 300 times? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this dude was going in the manga. He achieved Super Saiyan because he was training in 300 times Earth's gravity, not because Earth's environment was gentler and easier. And now we have like this tidbit that Toriyama says in a Q&A. But like I said, the good thing is you don't have to take this as word of law, because of what I was saying earlier. Like, one, Toriyama is so detached from his work, and that's obvious to anyone. That's so obvious to anyone that's read any of his work, right? Dragon Ball, or that's read any of his interviews. It's contradictory with what he said in the past. And it's just that. It's a Q&A. He's forgetful. So that's the good thing. Like, you don't have to take this as quote-unquote word of law. And people were bringing this up with Caulifla and Kale and Kaba. Maybe, like, I haven't really thought about it like that far ahead. But again, for me, I don't have a problem with those characters getting Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2. Maybe Super Saiyan 3. Because like I said, Super Saiyan 3 is a form that is only relegated for like the afterlife. Like when you have a dead body, or you're in the afterlife, or if you're a fusey like Gotenks who can only exist like in the mortal realm for like 5 minutes on end, right? So at least with Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2, I get that, right? And because they fought the respective, they fought the proper tier, they fought the proper opponent from a proper tier, and then they achieved that form. You know what I mean? So I'm okay with them getting Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 as fast as they did, because they fought the appropriate opponents. In Kaba's case, Vegeta, whatever. But I haven't really thought about the S-Cell thing with respect to Universe 6 Saiyans. I know some people have been like calling out. I haven't really read it myself, but we'll see. How does one increase S-Cells to become Super Saiyan? So that's another question. It says that having a gentle spirit is the best way to greatly increase one's S-Cells, but most Saiyans have trouble with this, which I think is why no Super Saiyans appear for such a long time and they become the stuff of legend. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, Toriyama, he always answers like, I think, it seems, like he himself is not sure. So because of his hesitant like nature or tone when he answers these questions, that's another reason why you don't have to go like, oh, like this is word of law. But anyway, I don't really have a problem with having quote unquote a gentle spirit, right? Having a gentle spirit is different than living in a gentle environment. Having a gentle spirit doesn't really conflict with anything, in my opinion, because all the half-breeds are less Saiyan-like than Goku and Vegeta, who are the last full-blooded Saiyans, besides, the Universe 6 ones, obviously, but, and Tarbell, if you want to count him. But, see, that's another thing, like with Tarbell, right? If having a gentle spirit, then you know, like what's the deal with Tarble? Like, why can't he transform into a Super Saiyan then, right? I mean, yeah, he's weak and all this, but anyway, that's, well, we can talk about that later. But at least with respect to like the original manga, I don't really have a problem with a person having a gentle spirit. And yeah, most Saiyans having trouble with that, yeah, that makes sense because, you know, Saiyans are evil people anyway, are inherently evil people. Unless you count like Super Saiyan or Dragon Ball Super with the, you know, the Yamoshi, who we'll talk about later, and which we definitely, oh my god, I gotta talk about Yamoshi and, you know, all these good-hearted Saiyans for Super Saiyan God, whatever, all that bullshit. But however, one can't reach the quantity necessary for becoming a Super Saiyan simply by having a gentle spirit, so a certain amount of battle power is indeed necessary. Looked at in this light, it's easy to see why becoming a Super Saiyan came easy for Goku. Yeah, so that to me is like, at least as far as having a gentle spirit with respect to the original manga, I can understand that. Even with Tarble, like if you think about it, like yeah, he hasn't trained much, he was weak, and which is why he was sent to like a weaker planet or whatever. But again, this is another case where like canon and like continuity in Dragon Ball kind of gets like fucked. So yeah. Goten picture. He was able to easily become Super Saiyan thanks to inheriting lots of S cells, right? General heart plus high battle power resulted in Super Saiyan. So yeah, so it's like I was saying, like Goten and Trunks definitely trained at some point, but because of what they inherited from their fathers when they transformed into Super Saiyan, they were able to, yeah. So that's it. Because it's like it said over here. Once these S cells reach a certain amount, a trigger such as anger will explosively increase the S cells. So the number of S cells goes up when you transform into a Super Saiyan. So yes, in fact, it does indeed pass through the fucking blood. So yeah, anyway, the only problem that I had with that first part is like Earth's environment, because that doesn't really fit well with respect to like actual training and all that, and how strong we see like other characters later. Now we get to Yamoshi, and we'll talk about this. And I'll also put the link for this in the description box below. Was the legendary Super Saiyan Frieza feared the Super Saiyan God that appeared in Battle of Gods? Now, this is a very, like, strange, like, answer and strange question, right? So, Toriyama says, in a certain sense, they are the same person. So already it's red flags, right? Because it's legendary Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan God, and a Super Saiyan is different from a Super Saiyan God, right? But so Toriyama starts off saying, like, in a certain sense, they are the same person. They are the same person. So, not exactly, but in a sense they are. That is to say, very long ago, before planet Vegeta was the Saiyan's planet, as we know with like Sadala and all that, there was a man. Let me drink some water. Hold on. There was a man named Yamoshi, and they said that the pun is probably on Moyashi, which is Japanese for bean sprouts. There was a man named Yamoshi who had a righteous heart despite being a Saiyan. And you guys already know how I feel about like Righteous Heart and Saiyan, because it kind of takes away from like what makes Goku special as a character, that he was a good-hearted Saiyan. The fact that he hit his head like on a rock and ended up becoming good because of that, and he was like an actual like good Saiyan, and then later Gohan and like all these, you know, his children and all that. That's what made that character special. But if they were these good-hearted Saiyans just because in the past, then that takes away from it, right? So I don't. So again, like, I like Battle of Gods, but I don't, and I like the look of Super Saiyan God, but the ritual in itself, I think, is just straight trash. Like, that should not be a thing. 5 good-hearted Super Saiyans, when Super Saiyan itself is a legend, yeah, fuck out of here. But anyway, there was a man named Yamoshi who had a righteous heart despite being a Saiyan. He and his 5 comrades started a rebellion, but he was cornered by warriors and became a Super Saiyan for the first time, though his transformation and fearsome fighting style shocked the other Saiyans. Outnumbered, Yamoshi eventually wore himself out and was defeated. But this was only the beginning of his legend. Okay, so this to me doesn't really like mess with anything. Yamoshi became a super. I mean, despite the righteous heart, you know, the righteous heart thing, and it says his 5 comrades, right? Now, this is I assume this is what is being referenced in Battle of Gods, right? Like when Shenron is like talking to everyone, Shenlong is like talking to everyone about it, right? Like Yamoshi and his 5, you know, like when they found out about Super Saiyan God. And I remember he said that those 5 Saiyans were also good-hearted. I mean, they had to be if Yamoshi himself became Super Saiyan God in the movie, right? But over here, it's not talking about Super Saiyan God. It talks about Super Saiyan God in the next sentence, but it talks about him becoming Super Saiyan for the first time. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because the 5 comrades, I assume those are the same 5 good-hearted Saiyans, right? But they could be like evil-hearted too, but apparently they're comrades, right? It could be like a Cell Arc Vegeta like sort of thing, right? Where they hate him, but they're gonna like work with him, right? Who knows? Anyway, he was cornered by warriors and became a Super Saiyan for the first time. Yada yada yada. Outnumbered, Yamoshi eventually wore himself out and was defeated, but this was only the beginning of his legend. I'm not so. I don't think this really works well. Because the fact that a Super Saiyan could so easily defeat Frieza, right? And Frieza was able to kill like a whole like population of Saiyans with nothing in his first form with his finger, right? I'm not so sure if I can believe that all these Saiyans like started fighting Super Saiyan Yamoshi and then eventually wore himself out. But on the other hand, he did transform when he was like at when he was like almost downright like near fucking like tired, right? Then again, we've seen that happen with Goku and Gohan, and it's pretty much like not been a factor or it's never been anything for them. I remember in the anime, Yamcha takes Gohan after he kills Cell, like he's carrying him and everything. Was that in the manga? I forget. And obviously, Super Saiyan 3 like drains energy, so who knows? And they do have to like master Super Saiyan to such a state that it doesn't drain their energy as much, right? As we see with Goku and Gohan when they come out of the Rosat, right? So who knows? Maybe, I mean, it can somewhat work out, but I think for me, like the thing is like when you go into Super Saiyan, even if you have like 1 million people fighting you, it doesn't matter. You know that was the problem with like the Z fighters fighting 100 of the Frieza's soldiers or 1,000, whatever it was. You know, in the revival of F movie, like. Who cares if it's 100, 1,000, whatever? They should be getting like fucking one-shotted like that, and I feel like that should be the same thing here with Yamoshi. But not every Super Saiyan is created equal, as we know. But yeah. Anyway, so it says this was only the beginning of his legend. So afterwards, Yamoshi spared. So I guess like Yamoshi was killed when he transformed into Super Saiyan. Afterwards, Yamoshi's spirit wandered in continuous search of 6 righteous-hearted Saiyans seeking a new savior, Super Saiyan God. So yeah, so this is the very confusing part, right? For a number of reasons. One, the question is saying that the legendary Super Saiyan Frieza feared and Super Saiyan God, were they the same person? And Toriyama says that yes, in a certain sense, they are the same person, right? But here, it seems like it's not, because Yamoshi's spirit wandered in continuous search of 6 righteous-hearted Saiyans. So it's either two things, right? Yamoshi, in spirit form, became Super Saiyan God, because that's what the question is asking, and that's how Toriyama answered it. In a certain sense, they are. Or two, he was going to create a Super Saiyan God amongst the 6 good-hearted Saiyans themselves, right? Now, so that's the confusing part. Did Yamoshi become Super Saiyan God or not? Right? And the other thing is, like, how did he even know about Super Saiyan God? Like, how did the ritual to get God, like that's the thing, right? Like Yamoshi becoming Super Saiyan, he became Super Saiyan for the first time, right? It said that he was cornered by warriors and then he was killed after he became a Super Saiyan for the first time, right? So like he doesn't even know anything about Super Saiyan, like how to master it, like how to train with it, nothing, right? He was killed and then his spirit wandered, right? Now I assume because he was righteous, Enma gave him a body to like, like actually like travel places, but it's very strange because Goku obviously only needed 5 Saiyans to transform into Super Saiyan God, right? But Yamoshi's spirit, he needed 6 to transform. If he was the one to transform, as the question is that that's what it's posing. So it's either Yamoshi in spirit form transformed, or he created a Super Saiyan God amongst the 6 themselves, right? And so like that was the confusing part. But like I was saying, like the other confusing part is like how did he even come up with the method to come up with Super Saiyan God? Like, how did that even like fucking happen? Why was it 5? I mean, I assume it was 5 because like he had 5 comrades, but he didn't even become Super Saiyan God. He didn't become Super Saiyan God when he fought the other Saiyans, right? He became a regular Super Saiyan with the gold hair and the blue eyes, not the red-haired form where he goes like slimmer and everything, right? So why like? If he became Super Saiyan, why would he need 5 righteous-hearted Saiyans? Why did he feel like he needed those other 5 righteous-hearted Saiyans with him if he was trying to recreate what happened with him to become a Super Saiyan, right? Like if these other, which I assume were like Saiyan people, if these 5 other Saiyans, good-hearted Saiyans, didn't become Super Saiyans, right, which would completely contradict with what is being said in the Battle of Gods movie, right? Then like why would you think that these 5 righteous-hearted Saiyans made you transform into a Super Saiyan? You know? Well, like what's the effect? Like, you see them die and that's it. So what was his plan? To like have like 5 of these righteous-hearted Saiyans die and then become a super? You know what I mean? You guys follow my logic? So it's like very strange. Like or it just makes no sense. Like why like what was passing like through his mind and his head for him to think like, oh, this would work, right? Unless he intended for like 5 of them to be killed and, you know, for one of them to become gold-haired. But how he even knew about like the red hair and Super Saiyan God, like that's another thing. Like, the fuck? Like, how did he know about God Ki and all this stuff? So, and then Tori says that that's why there's that ceremony to become Super Saiyan God, which obviously like I just showed, like, doesn't really make much sense. But then it says, this is an interesting question. Why did Beerus search for Super Saiyan God? I feel like the way that the question is worded is like very strange. Like, we know why Beerus searched for Super Saiyan God. He searched for it because he wanted a good fight. He wanted a worthy fight. Like, we know that because of Battle of Gods. Like, that's his motivation in the entire movie, right? And then, so anyway, the answer is that Beerus probably picked up on information about Yamoshi's spirit in his prophetic dream. Now, I don't understand like why he says probably picked up information, but because he had the dream already, right? Like, he was having the dream. Like, the Oracle Fish already told him about the prophecy. So, like, why would he need reaffirmation from Yamoshi's spirit to know about Super Saiyan God if the Oracle Fish already told him that, you know? But there's the answer continues on, saying that it says that the fact that this is recorded in the Namekian Book of Legends is likewise because the Namekian elder who wrote it sympathized with Yamoshi's spirit. So this is another case of like continuity errors, because the Namekian Book of Legends isn't mentioned at all in the Battle of Gods movie. It's mentioned only in Dragon Ball Super, and as we know, the Dragon Ball Super version of Battle of Gods is different from the movie version of Battle of Gods. And the movie version of Battle of Gods is what Toriyama wrote word for fucking word, right? And the Toei version, the Super version of Battle of Gods, is what Toei wrote. And so I have no idea like why he's referencing the Namekian Book of Legends, right? Because it's not like Toriyama to go to Toei and tell to an animator, not to an animator, but to a scriptwriter or whoever, right? One of the staff, to say, oh, put this plot point in one of your episodes. It's not like him to do that, because like I said, he's already very hands off with Super to begin with. All he's doing is writing like a plot outline and drawing character designs, right? It's up to Toyotaro and Toei to actually like storyboard the whole thing, draw the whole thing, write the lines of dialogue, like everything. So once again, it's just like, okay, so is this true for? So once again, we have like the whole canon continuity error sort of issue going on, because this very clearly is dealing with Super, because the Namekian Book of Legends is only in Super, and the Namekian Book of Legends was obviously in Super. It was obviously a terrible plot point used to justify like why Shenron was for some reason scared of Beerus, right? And that's not to say Shenron can't know of Beerus. I mean, Shenron knew of Frieza, of Majin Buu. I mean, he knows everything. All the dragons, Porunga included, know what you're talking about when you ask them for a wish. Like, the knowledge like instantly like goes to their fucking head, right? As it should, because, you know, that's what, you know, genies do. But so for Shenron to know at some point like who Beerus was, like if they asked him like in a wish like who he was or whatever, like that would make sense. But it just seems to me like I'm really confused like why he talked about the Namekian Book of Legends. But there is one reason I can think about. Remember when Toriyama like very early on, like 2 years ago or so, said that he was disappointed in the quality of the anime? Like he was complaining about the quality of the anime in that one I think it was the 30th anniversary guidebook, right? And he said that like he was disappointed, or he was complaining about the quality. And I remember like the Namekian Book of Legends, you know, Battle of Gods, that was only that arc was only 15 episodes in Super. So it's very much that Toriyama watched the first 15 episodes of Super and that's it, right? So, and maybe that's how he knows about it. Maybe it wasn't he who created it, he just decided to include it. But yeah, it's very strange to like the continuity canon error thing. once again happens. Anyway. So that's pretty much the end of the the relevant part of the Q&A. There's more. Dragon Ball Redux on Twitter just tweeted out saying like there's more there's more raws for that interview that's been revealed. If there's anything more relevant, I'll talk about it in a video. But it's like I was saying at the beginning of this video. Don't take this as word of law just because it was Toriyama, right? Don't take it as word of law just because it was Toriyama. Like I was saying, for like the various reasons why you shouldn't. But it's definitely more interesting new information. And but for me, just for me as Saiyan Z3, I'm just glad like it pretty much confirms the whole Super Saiyan gene theory thing. And this is the case with like Dragon Ball like information. Like in my opinion, you're allowed to be selective with what you choose. You're allowed to be selective with what you choose because of how things, not only things contradict one another, but just because of how Toriyama doesn't tightly write the series. It's very loose, and there's very like different, Super Sean on Twitter was saying it the best, like the canon, the continuity of Dragon Ball, it's like a tree. Like you have the original manga, which is the trunk, Super, GT, all these different, well, maybe you don't count GT, but at least Super and Dragon Ball Minus and all these things are like different branches. They're all different branches, so that's the way I'm gonna look at it. But yeah, interesting. Just wanted to get the video out, I guess, more than anything. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. 31 minutes, not bad. I'll see you guys whenever. I'm gonna go watch Gintama. Bye. Oh, and the One Piece chapter was good. I felt bad for Chiffon's dad. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.